have Dr. Nathan Smith. If you could say hi.
Hey everyone, how are you guys?
Hi.
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm well.
And he's going to talk to you about what he does. So Dr. Smith is a neuroscientist. Do you know what a neuroscientist is?
A neuroscientist is an expert in neuroscience. A neuroscientist studies the development and function of the nervous system, which includes the brain, spinal cord, and neural cells throughout the body. They can
Nice.
specialize
Wow.
one part of the nervous system, such as neurotransmitters, or focus their research on specific behaviors such as psychiatric disorders.
So I'm going to let you go ahead and have a conversation with Dr. Smith. He's going to show you some very cool things. And if you have any questions, comments, you just want to bring up something cool that you've learned in the past and see, you could ask him any question. He has to be able to answer it today, okay?
Exactly.
So be free and feel comfortable to do so, okay?
Okay.
All right, yeah, you guys do not be shy at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you guys. I'm going to do a virtual brain and skull, so you guys can look at the brain and then see the different parts of the brain, and then we're going to look at different cells, the different cell types of the brains and everything else. And hopefully we'll take a quiz afterwards to see if you guys were paying attention. So this, as you know, is a human skull, right? And what does the skull encase?
The skull encases the brain.
Absolutely. The skull encases the brain, and then we have the skull is also divided into different sections, which is also the different sections of the brain, right? So this is the parietal bone, right? If we move here, we have the temporal bone, then we have the frontal bone, the same on this side, temporal, parietal, and then back here we have occipital bone, right? So now let's take off the top of the skull and we'll look at the brain, and also the different meninges. We call them meninges, but these are the different things that encases the brain inside of the skull. So let's get rid of the skull and let's take a closer look at the brain. And do you guys see what's going through? You have the veins and you have the arteries, right? So the blue is veins, red is arteries. And what do you see moving inside of those?
Blood.
Absolutely. Blood that is carrying what?
Purple.
Oxygen.
Yeah, it's carrying oxygen. That is correct. And so in the purple, the veins, that is carrying the deoxygenated blood. And then you have in the red, where the arterioles are carrying the oxygenated blood. So once the blood cells exchange or deliver the oxygen to where it needs to go, then you have it goes through the veins, right? And it takes it back to the lungs where it could be reoxygenated and pumped through the brain. Remember I told you in the beginning, we had the different parts of the skull, which is frontal bone, parietal lobe, and everything else. So now the frontal bone makes up and it covers the frontal lobe. Now, can one of you read and tell me what the frontal lobe is responsible for?
It's execute behavior, control of movement by initiating stimulation of individual muscles and help in making plans about the future.
Absolutely, that is right. Let's move on over to what do you think parietal lobe is?
Receive and process sensory information from the skin and the tongue. It is also involved in processing auditory and visual information received in other lobes of the brain.
That is correct. The parietal lobe consists of the somatosensory cortex, the auditory cortex, and also the motor cortex. And what do you think the temporal lobe does?
Integrates visual and auditory information such as visual processing for object and pattern recognition of faces, and recognition depending on memory.
That is correct. You guys don't even need me here. You're doing really well. And can someone read to me and tell me what the occipital lobe does?
Occipital lobe processes visual stimuli that are sent to the brain from the retina.
Exactly. And the occipital lobe is where all the visual stimuli is being processed and it sends it back, right? Look at this, eyes, right? So look how the signal travels from your eye. Can someone read that? Travels from your eye.
Eye. Signal from the two optic nerves first converge at a crossover junction called the optic chiasma.
Chiasma.
Continue,
Yeah.
continues via band of nerve fibers to the visual cortex in the occipital
Occipital lobe. You're right.
lobe.
Now, I wanted to tell you, some of these words are in British English, so they're spelled different from the way we would spell them in the United States and also pronounce them, right? How does taste travel to, and what part of the brain does taste get to? Let's see.
The pathway for taste-related impulse travels from the mouth to primary gustatory areas of the cerebral cortex in the
In the
parietal
parietal lobe, right. Now I'm gonna do a quick quiz. So for vision, what do you guys know what lobe it goes? So it goes from the eyes through the optic chiasm to what lobe? Let me see if you remember what
The parietal lobe.
Yeah, occipital lobe. Now we have auditory.
Ear. Electric impulse for sound information travels from the ear along the auditory nerve via the brainstem and thalamus to the auditory cortex located in temporal lobe corpuscle.
That is correct. So when you touch your face, how are those neural signals relayed into your brain? How do you distinguish what you're feeling? Now, can someone read to me the sensory input from the skin?
Skin. Sensory input enters from the brainstem from where the signals are taken to the primary somatosensory cortex.
Somatosensory cortex in the parietal lobe. That is correct. So we have touch, we have taste, we have sight. What's next? Smell. Now, can someone read to me, how do you get, when you smell something, how do you process smell?
Nose. Signals from olfactory bulb pass along the olfactory tract to the olfactory cortex and the temporal lobe.
That is correct, right? So you smell, it goes through the nose. So now let's dive deep into how does this all fit together with the different cell types we have in the brain? So we have the cell body, which is cyton, which is the soma. And can someone read to me what the soma is doing?
Also called the soma, the cell body is the spherical part of the cell which contains the nucleus and other organelles.
All right, so let's dive into the cell right quick. So the most important thing within the cell itself, you have the nucleus.
Neuron has a large, round, centrally located nucleus, and it contains the genetic material.
But nothing will be possible without this particular part of the cell. This is the mitochondria. This is the powerhouse of the cell, and it supplies the energy of the cell. And the neurons need enormous amounts of energy, as the brain is one of the most metabolic active organs. You read and handled those words like champs. They were, I mean, wow, I'm very impressed. Now you can hit me with any questions you have about the brain or the different cell types you have learned in the brain.
How much experiments have you done?
Oh, I have done a ton of experiments. I mean, I've done many. It's over 5,000.
I know that the brain does not feel pain. How do you input this into a couple of your experiments or studies?
The brain doesn't feel pain, but however, if you pinch a person or you manipulate a person or something like that, you cause pain in your model, that could manipulate your firing in your brain. And so you have to take that all into account.
One more question.
All right.
With someone who has anesthesia, who you're studying, how do you approach them?
This is a really good question. Did you read some of my work beforehand? This is a really good question. I mean, this is so important because we know that anesthesia will affect the firing of the cells. So when we do experiments like this to figure out how anesthesia will affect or not anesthesia, so in the beginning, did all of these experiments in anesthetized models, right? We always did it under anesthesia. However, by doing it under anesthesia, we found that our results, or the firing patterns of the neurons and the brain cells, were completely different. So basically, in order to get over that, we now remove that, and now we do all the experiments in awake animals or humans. So no more in anesthesia. So we don't do it in anesthesia in order to find the proper response of what we do.
So what do you guys like most about STEM? So science, technology, engineering, mathematics. What do you like most about it?
Can I choose two?
Yes.
You never have to stick to one.
Science and engineering, because I'm in the Technology Student Association for my school, and we deal with a bunch of STEM things there. And science, because my dad, he's a biologist, and I want to be a biologist. And we have a big open space, like, outside of my house, where I can just go out and just enjoy nature. And really, that's one of the reasons I want to be a biologist. And engineering, like I said, I'm part of TSA, and TSA has been a big part of my life because I've been able to meet so many new people and do so many different things that it's been a blessing to be in TSA. So.
All right.
Kind of tell us what you like most about STEM, or like, is there an area of STEM that you love the most?
Yes.
What is it?
Wait, can I say sports?
Sure. What about sports and STEM intrigues you?
Both of them have action.
Sounds like physics. Yeah.
So STEM, well, so like basketball, it has action because you call for the ball to get the ball and then pass, or try to fake them out and then shoot the ball, and then the STEM, it works with all its friends and neighbors, so the brain could work properly and not be wild.
Wow. Hey, look, you picked up something. I like that. Go Cameron. I like that. No, that's true. And it's like being able to effectively navigate basketball by knowing how the brain or science ties everything together.
Well, thank you again, you guys, for joining us. And let's give a good thank you for Dr. Smith for being
Thank you.
He does as a neuroscientist. Thank you, Dr. Smith, so much.
Thank you guys for inviting me to be the first. It was great. I had fun.